Hi everyone, welcome to Disciples Path. My name is Emily. Today I want to talk about President Nelson's social media post that just came up first thing this morning on Valentine's Day, February 14th. In this social media post, he announced the open house for the Salt Lake City Temple. Salt Lake City Temple is projected to be complete by the end of 2026. And the open house is now planned for, from April to October of 2027. That's a 6-month open house, which is, I can only imagine the vast undertaking that this is, and how incredible an opportunity it will be for so many people to be able to go and look at the temple and walk through those halls and see those rooms and feel the Spirit. Well, what I thought was really interesting about this post, obviously he made his timing perfect, that he, at the beginning of his post, he talked about how it's been 127 years since the groundbreaking. The groundbreaking was on February 14th, 1853. And then, of course, it took 40 years for the saints in their situation and the trials and struggles and sacrifices that they had to undertake in order to complete that temple. It took them 40 years. So I decided that I wanted to do a little digging about this groundbreaking ceremony. It was surprisingly difficult to find information on the groundbreaking, but over time I was actually able to find something. So the first thing that I found was the March 1993 ensign, which, as I started looking at it, I realized that my mother, in her infinite wisdom, she actually got me a copy of this in 1993. She got a copy for me, for herself, for my younger sister. I don't know if there were more copies in the house, but we each got a copy of this. And I held on to it because I knew that there was something special about it. Although I'm not sure that at, 1993, I would have been, 15? Something like that. So yeah, at the time, I don't think I really understood how important this was. 100-year anniversary of the Salt Lake Temple. I think I was like, oh, well, that's nice. That's such a cool thing, 100 years. But yeah, so I actually started going through this is on the churchofjesuschrist.org. They have all of the ensigns in there dating from, I think, since the ensign started. And so as I started going through this, I was looking at some of these articles, and I realized that, there are all these pictures, and I thought that would be great to show these. Oh, that one doesn't even work. It would be great to show these pictures of the temple. But then I realized that some of these pictures were missing that were in the magazine. Like, for example, on this page for this article from President Hinckley, you had this picture of the Salt Lake Temple, which is here. It's a nice full page, or nearly full page, picture of the temple. But on the opposite side, there's actually a picture of Wilford Woodruff, which isn't in this online version on the church library, which kind of disappointed me because there are a lot of really fantastic pictures in this magazine of the interior of the temple. Oh, looks like I cut something out of here. But so you had all these great pictures of the interior of the temple, which are just beautiful, and we didn't have all of those in this article or in this digital copy of the ensign. And it took me a little bit to find an archival version of this copy of the ensign. This is Archive Viewer, the Church History Library. I haven't gone very much into this particular website, but I thought it was really, really cool that they have archival copies from the Church History Library. So they have the entire, if you'll look through, I'm trying not to go too fast, they have the entire page by page scanned copies of this ensign. The only thing that I'll say about this archival documentation is that if you look, the copies seem to be a little faded, or there's kind of a little bit of a sepia tone. I don't know if that has something to do with the quality of the scan, which is what I assume is what it is, or if it is that the copy of the ensign that they had might have been a little aged, and so therefore the quality of the copies didn't come out as well. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the archiveviewer.org, and you can look at all of these amazing, amazing pictures. One of the ones that I liked was a couple of pages, or actually the next page on, you have this picture of temple workers sitting on the steps of the Salt Lake Temple, all dressed in white, which I thought was beautiful. That gives people kind of an idea, maybe who aren't as familiar with the temple experience, of what our temple workers look like and what they looked like at the time, and their dedication to bringing the Spirit in that way. So again, as I was searching through, what I was actually looking for was an account of the day of the groundbreaking, which was, again, surprisingly difficult to find information on. But eventually I dug up, I'm not as practiced at this as some podcasters are, but I dug up the Wilford Woodruff papers, and I was able to find his journal entry for February 14th, 1853, because obviously Wilford Woodruff was in attendance. And so I thought we could go through his journal entry for this day. Now, because they copied this faithfully from the journal entry, the punctuation is sometimes lacking. And so sometimes it's hard to tell where one sentence ends and another sentence begins. But I figured we'd go through this real quick. And there are a couple of really interesting things, really lovely things that were said during this event, this groundbreaking event, that I thought applied directly to my search for examples of discipleship and what it means to be a disciple. So, diving in, February 14th, 1853, Monday. This was an important and interesting day to the saints in the valley, and even in all the world. The saints met upon the temple block in a vast body to break the ground for another temple. The people commenced gathering at an early hour, and at 11 o'clock there were thousands upon the ground. President Young and council, the quorum of the 12, with many of the quorums of the 12 of the church, were on the ground. All the bands of music in the city were present. At 11 o'clock, President Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and Willard Richards got into a buggy inside the square, surrounded by the quorum of the 12. President Young arose and addressed the people and said, "Our history is too well known for me to speak of it now. We shall now again attempt to build another temple. We have tried it many times." It says bet, my guess is that's supposed to be but, have not been able to finish them so as to occupy them for any length of time. We may not now, but we will try it. We may just as well build a temple that will cost $1 million as well as not, and we would be just as well off and better and better too than before. And I would just as well, I really liked this thought from Brigham Young, and I would just as well build a temple that would cost $1,000,000 if I knew we should be driven from it in a month by our enemies, as though we should occupy it 1,000 years. It is all the same with me. For when the Lord commands us to do anything, we should do it just as freely without asking the whys and wherefore, whether we have the privilege of enjoying it or not. And I thought that was a really bold statement, considering the kind of destitute circumstances many of the saints were in, that $1,000,000 is a lot today, but back then it would have been even so much more. It would have been quite a stunning sacrifice to give that much to the church, to build a temple that they may or may not have been able to spend very much time enjoying. But he said that following the Lord's commandments were more important to him than any amount of money that they would spend, even if they didn't get a chance to enjoy it. So that is remarkable to me. Okay, going on. If you ask if it is the will of God for us to build a temple, I answer yes, it is the will of God. We should build a temple. We cannot attend to the ordinances of the house of the Lord without it. If you ask if I have received a revelation or vision upon the subject, I would answer yes. I have been in vision much of the time upon the subject. I knew it was the will of God that we should build a temple on this same ground when I first came into the valley. And while the brethren were exploring out, I said all the time, this is the place for the city and temple. Going to the next page. It is the will of God that we should do all we can in this valley and surrounding country for the benefit of the people. If the people needed it, I would give them a written revelation upon this subject. But do you not know that it is your duty to build up houses for your own benefit? This bit I'm not sure that I quite understand. You want a buttery bedrooms and other convenient rooms in your dwelling house. I'm not sure what exactly that means. Maybe some historian knows what that means. But moving on, well, we want a temple more than we want dwelling houses. I will relate some of the sayings of Joseph while in Kirtland. He said concerning the building of that temple that it grieved him, but also the Spirit of God, to think that the saints were not willing to build a temple by the counsel of the priesthood without a written revelation and commandment from God. So he said, I would give them a written revelation upon this subject, but it's your duty to build the house of the Lord. It's your duty to follow the commandments of God. And it grieved Joseph Smith that the people were not willing to follow those commandments without a written revelation and commandment from God. So he goes on to say, was it not for the penurious feelings of the people? Penurious, I believe, is like they're poor. They're not willing to spend money on something. Were it not for the penurious feelings of the people, the Lord would not give revelations and commandments as he does. Whenever the Lord finds the people willing to do good, build up his kingdom, and do good without being commanded, he will be more pleased with them. So it's definitely a goal to try to achieve, is to be willing to do that good without having the prophet up on the pulpit or the prophet in writing say, this is what God is commanding, this is the written revelation, this is a revelation I received directly from Heavenly Father, and we have to do this thing. If we're willing to go and do good simply because it's the right thing to do, then Heavenly Father is more pleased with us than being commanded in all things. Okay. I will bring forth my art and plan for a temple, then if any man can present any better plan or get faith enough to call to his aid any of the old Nephites or any of the ancients, and will present a better plan than mine will be, we will receive it. So, we've got our plan. I've got this vision in mind. If anybody has a better plan, or if anybody's, talked to any old Nephites or any of the ancients and is willing to present a better plan, we'll go for that. There's a little bit of humor in there as I see it. Okay, a word to the people. I wish to ask if you want a commandment every year to require you to pay your tithing, when it is a standing law unto Israel and has been from the days of Abraham. You all know this well. If you don't want to pay your tithing or any portion of you, so any portion of you that don't want to pay your tithing, I don't want you should. It is for your good, not... Okay, let me make sure that I'm saying this right. If you don't want to pay your tithing or any portion of you, I don't want you should. It's an interesting way of saying it. It is for your good, not mine. I don't want a temple to get my endowments. For I got my endowments and all the blessings appertaining thereto under the hands of Joseph before his death and before the temple was built in Nauvoo. And so did my counselors, and a part of the 12 get theirs before the temple was built. Brother Joseph seemed urged by the Spirit of God to perform this work. Had he not have done it, he might have died without conferring the keys upon others. If this people pay their tithing, we shall have an abundance in the storehouse to build a temple with, without giving all you have got, yet all you have should be upon the altar, ready to be offered if necessary. I shall ask the people to come and work out their tithing by labor, for that is what I want. I believe we shall have your help. 7 years ago tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I crossed the Mississippi River. I believed then that God had a good place in the mountains for us and would lead us to it, and he has done it, for which I feel thankful. If some feel quite sorry for not having the privilege of suffering with us, but I will promise you all, if you will be faithful, that you shall have the privilege of suffering and being tried as much as you will wish. Let all men be satisfied, faithful and humble, and God will bless you. So, I don't know, I see a little bit of humor in here. I see that Brigham Young was, I think he's been described as having a bit of a sharp wit. Anyway, so this last little bit says, Heber C. Kimball then arose, and with uplifted hands to heaven, offered a fervent, heartfelt prayer to God, imploring his blessing upon President Young and counselors and all the authorities of the church, with the whole house of Israel. He then dedicated the ground unto God and prayed for the blessings of the Lord to attend to them in building the temple and all the public works in Zion. And we could go on to the next page. He talks about the rest. Actually, yeah, I think we're going to do that real quick. At the close of the prayer, the presidency and 12 walked to the southeast corner of the ground laid out for the temple, the ground being frozen. President Heber C. Kimball commenced breaking the ground with a pick, then President Richards, then Orson Hyde, Parley P. Pratt, Wilford Woodruff, J. Taylor, A. Lyman, C.C. Rich, E.T. Benson, L. Snow, E. Snow, and F.D. Richards. I believe these are the present 12. Then the ground was broke, and President Young took out the first turf while taking it. While taking it out, silver dollar was flung from someone in the congregation, which struck in the hole. Brother Kimball said that it was an omen that we should have plenty of money to build the temple with. Orson Pratt was at Washington and G.A. Smith at Provo. All the rest of the 12 were present. As soon as the turf was taken out, the congregation was dismissed, and the people rushed to the hole to get a chance to throw a little dirt out. My father, Wilford Woodruff, age 78 years, myself, Wilford Woodruff, aged 48 years, and my son, Wilford Woodruff Jr., aged 12 years, all flung out dirt out of the foundation for this important temple. After leaving the temple ground, I went in company with the presidency and 12 to see the new sugar works operate. I saw the hydraulic press operate in pressing out the juice. It was a splendid establishment. Brother Joseph Russell of Miramichi had furnished about $50,000 to purchase the machinery and apparatus and get it to the valley to make sugar from the beet. My children, Wilford, Phoebe, and Susan, also Emma and Sarah, were all present at the breaking of the ground for the foundation of the temple. So I just thought that, other than being amused by the wit of President Young, I was taken with this idea that, the law to pay tithing that's been given since Abraham, that's expected. We don't need to receive commandment every year to say, remember, you need to go and pay your tithing. The same thing with the importance of the temple. That's what he's equating it to. The temple is so important that we shouldn't need to have a revelation or a commandment given every so often that this is important. This should be part of the understanding as saints that the temple is so important that we dedicate ourselves to building it up. That's part of the building up of the kingdom. That's part of being a disciple, that we understand the goals of the church, that we understand the purpose of the gospel to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. It is that important. And so all of these things together, we don't need to receive revelation, every year or every 6 months. Well, we receive revelation every 6 months from General Conference, but we shouldn't have to reiterate these things like tithing and the importance of temple work and, all the other things that as disciples, we're a part of this work. So those are just a few of my thoughts. I was really excited about this social media post this morning, and I was fascinated by these descriptions of this day, both the transcendent spiritual moments of the day, as well as the kind of maybe a little bit mundane with the sugar works, for the sugar beets that became sort of well known in this area. Anyway, so I just thought that I'd share that with you, what I found. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was fascinating, and I hope you did too. If you like this video, click like, subscribe. I'm going to be posting this video tomorrow since I already have a video up today, and I also have a short that is scheduled for this afternoon. So I'll have this posted for Saturday. Again, I appreciate your joining me on this journey. I'm so excited for learning more about what it means to be a disciple and how to be a better disciple. And so that's it until next time. Thank you so much for joining me, and have an awesome day.